guys, it's me, Stormie, and today I wanted to talk to you about a subject I love, and that is eating and diet. I am definitely a Taurus. You can definitely tell when you look at my chart, it is loaded with Venus energy. So I am a very indulgent kind of person, but I do love some food. But the things that I started to understand that I loved about food and the ways that they would actually bring me out of balance with my own element and my body are the same things that I get to use in my life now to help you guys understand how to find some of the balance in yours as well. Now, I want to say this right at the very beginning. I am not a doctor. I am not any kind of specialist. I use astrology and Ayurvedic medicine in my diet, and that is the tips that I'm going to hand you here, along with the things that I've studied in astrology. So if you want to make changes to your diet or any of those kinds of things, don't do it because I said so. Definitely check with your doctor. And as you know, sometimes the maintenance of health, it's just a process. It can be a process of adjusting when we need to, because we all experience times or periods of excess or deficiency, and that really depends more upon our element when we're talking about it in astrology. So keep those things in mind as we go through, but definitely let me give you a couple tips. One of the things to know about astrology with health and diet is that really your chart is a unique makeup of your constitution, right? Of like who you are. And so for that purpose, when a medical astrologer or somebody looking at medical astrology looks at your chart, they can kind of identify what health issues you're likely to experience, as well as give specific recommendations as to what can help keep those in balance. Now, in astrology, especially the way that I use it when I'm looking at someone's medical stuff, the way I identify the constitutions is in the 4 elements. So fire, earth, air, and water, okay? So now, of course, if you're not completely clear on your astrology yet, that's totally cool. I'm just going to tell you really quickly. The fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Now, these are considered the signs that possess the most vitality, right? Like the most go of all of the signs. Then the air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, they are considered the second most vital, even though they're a little bit more reactive to external things. Just kind of keep that in mind. Hold that in your back pocket for a minute. Now, the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces are changeable, right? And they are emotionally reactive, which obviously we're talking about eating and health. That's going to play a big part. Then the earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, they possess the greatest steadiness and endurance, but they are not vital. These are our rooted down signs. They don't have the vitality that the fire and the air signs have. So these things all come into play when we're considering your medical astrology, and especially things around health and diet. So if you want to find out a little bit more about what each of these signs and each of these elements are kind of working with when they have excess fire, when they have low fire, when they have excess earth or low earth, some remedies to adjust those and some things to avoid, then just stay tuned. Okay, so let's look first at the fire signs. Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. So if someone's chart has a high fire constitution, what we can understand about them is that fire rules the function of internal combustion, right? Digestion, the burning up and absorption of food. Fire can be about burning off toxins, burning off bacteria, burning off funguses and all those other cool creepies that live in our body. Fire signs can easily fight disease when they're in balance, right? So their constitution tells us, just being fire sign, that they are going to be naturally gravitating towards higher temperature things. So now what happens when a fire sign is in excess fire, when they're unbalanced, when they're overstimulated? Well, what happens is they're prone to burning themselves out. They look burnt out, right? Like you can feel this about a fire sign when they are overstimulated or they're in excess fire, especially within the body. Now, excess fire can really look like they are grouchy and angry. They internalize all kinds of BS. They're impatient. They really are in this position where they're putting themselves in danger of hypertension, heart problems later, ulcers, inflammation of the body, and all of those not so fun things. Now, excess fire can be brought back into balance by taking it just the other way, by eating foods that are cool or cold, eating foods that are moist and heavy, or foods that are slow burning and give the body a chance to ground. So some of the things we would recommend taking at this time are grains and root vegetables, right? Some of the things we would say if you're in excess fire to avoid would be spicy foods. Don't try and kick yourself back up. You're already up high enough. And meat, red meat, very specifically. So some of the herbal cues that I like to use and recommend when I'm looking at someone with excess fire is herbs like chamomile. Lemon balm is very good, very tasty. I like that one. Skullcap and also valerian, okay? Now, so what happens if we're going towards the opposite of that and we have a fire sign that's experiencing low fire? Ooh, okay. Well, when your fire is low, it may be hard to fight off disease, right? Like your body's like, oh, I can't even fire today. You know what I mean? Digestion and absorption in foods could be inadequate. Your body could literally feel exhausted trying to do what it needs to do. So what we want to do with that is we want to take that just to the opposite. We want to eat foods that are hot. We want to eat foods that are light, but we want to also eat foods that are very aromatic. If your fire's low, we want to avoid cold foods. So what we would recommend that you take is lemon, very good, yogurt, kale, bitter greens, and some mustard. Mustard also works as a beautiful herb. Some of the things you do want to avoid at that time if your fire is low would be dairy products and meat. Now, some of the herbs that I do love, I love mustard for this. Cayenne, of course, like you can just get it kicked up because you want digestive stimulants here. Cinnamon, garlic, and ginger. So that is a little bit about fire signs and when they're in excess and when they're low and how to bring that back into balance. All right, when we're looking at our air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, and what this constitution is about, air signs are our nervous system, the circulatory system, and the functions of movement, breathing, urination, like pretty important stuff, you know what I'm saying? Now, these people are easily stimulated, right? And they're quick. They're quick moving. They tend to be quick moving. But the other thing about them is that they are extremely sensitive and have extremely sensitive minds, which means that outside stuff can really throw them off or send them into a state of being overwhelmed. So what are we looking at when we are looking at an air sign that has excess air happening for them? They can be overactive, they can be restlessness, those little sensitive minds that they have just become accustomed to nervous exhaustion, which is not what we want, and that can very much so plague these signs when they're in excess. As well, some other very physical indicators for them is dry hair, dry skin, dry mucous membranes. They have insomnia, memory loss, and really the memory loss more so comes from a systematic overload. They're just freaking fried, right? So excess air, people, one thing, and I know we're talking about diet and health, but one thing that is really very good for them is scheduled specific moments of downtime so that they can have minimal stimulus hitting them so that they can allow those nervous systems to just kind of chill out and come back down. Now, in the food arena, what would we suggest? What would I suggest that they take or that they eat? Lightly steamed vegetables, nuts. I know you're going to be excited about this next one, croutons. Like, I'm a fan of croutons. I think croutons like save the world. Now, things, if they're in excess air that they want to avoid are going to be raw foods, right? Like, don't amp your body up to do more work. Grains, root crops, yeasty foods, and things like refined sugar. You don't need it. You're already stimulated. You don't need to do more. Now, in the herbal arena, some herbs that I really, really love and I use with the air signs in my life are just enzymes, specific enzymes that will help you with absorption. And those are things that I very much so leave to your dietitian, herbalist, or physician to go over those with you. Now, what happens if we see an air sign in low air? So if we have someone suffering from low air, when we see low air, it's like there's a difficulty with the flow within the body, right? There's a weakened nervous system, and it would benefit from some minerals, some support, calcium, magnesium. The circulatory needs stimulating, right? It needs help. So if you have low air, I would recommend raw foods, vegetable juices, sprout seeds, oats in any form, whether it be oatmeal, whether it be oat saw tea, oat straw tea, oat tinctures, things like that. They're all tonifying. And if you don't know what that word means, that's okay. It basically means it helps the body without putting them into a state of sedation and having them completely chilled out because they're already low, right? So what would I recommend you take? Cayenne. I love cayenne. I think I throw cayenne in everything if you're low. Cayenne, garlic, ginger, yogurt, kefir is really, really good. And things to avoid if you have low air going on in your life would be things like dandelion root. Just avoid that if you can. All right, so when we're taking a look over our water signs now, the water elements rule the reproductive system, the lymphatic system, and body fluids, including mucus, blood, lymph, and all of that good jazz. Now, water, as we know, lubricates, flushes things from the body, cools the body down. So when we're looking at water signs, we know that they are exceptionally sensitive to their environment, right? Especially things that grow well in wet places, fungi, viruses, bacteria, all of that good jazz. So health issues, when I tend to be looking at water signs and what I've experienced in my practice, is that they generally have a strong emotional component to whatever their health issue is. These people pick up very quickly on other people's negativity and they can really hold on to that. You know what I mean? And they tend to spend a lot of time like thinking and kind of like brooding about their health situations, and they can actually think themselves into a state of unbalance by thinking something's too big or making it too small. It's a very emotional piece to how this element really does work. So the other thing that I'll just say before I tell you about the low and the high is that one thing I have noticed consistently with Cancer people and their health situations is that they recur in cycles. Cancers have issues, or water signs have health issues that just reoccur in cycles and cycles and cycles, okay? So now what are we looking at if somebody has excess water going on in their life, in their chart, or any of that good stuff? Well, these people, by the very nature of having too much water, tend to have a very sluggish digestive system. They can have slow metabolism. And think about that. If you have excess water or stagnant standing water basically in the body, what that can turn into is excess weight, right? Like you're holding it, weight issues. It can also turn into manifesting mucus, cysts, tumors, swellings, and things like excess candida in the body, right? In different systems, the excess of yeast and things like that. Now, what I've never seen to be really effective for this is for them to just, change their dietary intake or anything like that. Like that's never just worked on its own. It really, for this sign, has to be that combination of increasing the metabolic rate by changing the diet, putting in more physical activity, and excess water, when we're looking at it from a food perspective, comes into a more beautiful balance with foods that are hot, that are dry, and are light. So some of the foods I would say if you have excess water or if someone is dealing with excess water would be steamed vegetables, fruits, beans, very good here. Things I would definitely say to avoid would be breads, yeasty foods, things like that. Certain kinds of salts, sweets, because this can be, they're going to really like some sweets if they're going through this. Dairy, or things that are just super duper oily. Now, herbs, this is my favorite part. Herb-wise, love sage here, love basil, love thyme, garlic. I could use garlic for like everything, I think. Uva is very good here. Juniper berries. There's something I'm leaving out. What am I leaving out? Oh, parsley. Parsley is very good here. And any kind of diuretic, lemon, things like that can really help to kind of flush that out. So now what if we're looking at something that is going the other way where it's low water? Low water in the body has trouble flushing out toxins from their systems, right? They have a lack of lubrication in their system, so they tend to be stiff, kind of. They can be dehydrated. When you have low water, you can really have a hard time sleeping as well, and you can suffer from conditions that really kind of look like if you have excess air, like dry skin, dry hair, difficulty absorbing nutrients into the body. The other piece of it that, like I said, it's a very emotional component with this constitution or with this element is that they have a hard time feeling emotionally secure. They have a hard time feeling not only secure but emotionally nourished, right? So some of the things outside of the food that can help here are taking baths, drinking plenty of fluids. Now remember, this is if you have low water. Even living near water can really be helpful. Foods like the melons, especially if you're someplace where the melons are in season all year long, then good for you. If not, but in the summertime here in the States, the melons, the cucumbers, things that are fleshy, vegetables help balance out this constitution when it's low. Now, the thing I would say is if you're suffering with low water, one thing to really avoid is fasting. Take care of yourself. Extreme exposure to heat and sunlight, right? Take extra salt if you're exerting yourself in something or you're in warm weather. Your water is already low, so you have to be mindful of these things. The thing you don't want to do is you don't want to go on a fast and then feel like you're going to go sit out in the heat all day. That is just, it's not going to work out. It's not what's best. So some of the things to help you food-wise are oats, seaweed. I'm not a big fan of seaweed, but I have some water constitution friends who live by it. Dairy products, natural sugars, rice, wheat can be good here if you can tolerate the wheat. Things to avoid would be diuretics. You have low water. You don't need to push out any more water for your body. And this includes carrots, by the way, celery, cabbage, asparagus, these things that act as these natural diuretics. And some beans I don't think are very good either here. But, again, you're listening to a video. I'm not your doctor. Make sure you go over this with them. Now, herb-wise, what I do like here are fruit juices, natural fruit juices, or things sweetened with honey. Very good when we're looking at a low water kind of situation. And finally, but not least at all, we're dealing with the earth signs and the earth constitutions, which is Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn energy. Now, the earth element is built to rule over the skeletal system, rule over the elimination systems, right? And the earth element is quite critical and essential for growth, reproduction, repair of tissues. Now, what they tend to lean towards and have issues with are weight issues, tumors, glandular disorders, things like that. So what happens typically in the earth constitution is that overeating or a diet of very heavy foods tends to lead to excess earth for them, which is then further aggravated by a lack of movement, a lack of being as fiery and vital and movable as some of their other friendly signs, right? So now one thing I can say is that's a hot mess, right? Eat too much, too sedentary, but they usually have really strong teeth. I mean, look at these chompers. I'm killing it with these. Okay, so earth signs, they typically are very ruled by the senses, right? So they have strong sense impressions with them. They have a connection with the earth, that their strength is the type that is enduring. It is persistent, right? So that said, when we look at health stuff in the body that can really come and attack them, they tend to weather colds and flu symptoms and stuff like that much easier than any of the other signs. So now what does it look like very specifically when we're looking at excess earth in a person, right? What it looks like is it's heaviness in the body. It's sluggish, right? It's very slow moving in the system. And it can also be a place where they're struggling to overcome their own motivation to get motivated, their own movement, right? So their digestion and metabolism gets slow, and they're earth signs, so it's naturally slower anyways. So increasing, though, if we're in an excess, increasing the density of the body tissue, thick skin, they can have scoliosis. This is a really good one for that. Calcium deposit, tumors, and increased body hair, and all of that other stuff are also a piece of this this slowness of the excess. So now if they are in excess, to go against that and to kind of treat that, some of the things I would recommend are foods that are like veggies, right? Steamed vegetables with some spices added to it because we want to perk up. We want to perk up this excess earth, give it a little bit of excitement. Soups and teas, especially if they have a little bit of spice in them. Sprouts are great if you have excess earth. Salads, fruit salads. I am an earth and I tend to deal in excess earth as well. So I'm very familiar with these and I love these foods. I love getting that little kick of spice into my food. Now, things that we obviously want to avoid if you're dealing with heavy or excess earth is foods that are heavier, foods that are oilier, creamed based soups. You want to avoid that. Go to a clear liquid broth kind of soup, right? Now, herbs here. Ginger. Love ginger. Black pepper, cayenne. Love cayenne. Could put that in everything. Things that are bitter. Other hot spices. A bitter tonic, and a good herbalist can give you a really good excess earth bitter tonic, or if you do that yourself, you can also whip one up. So then what does it look like if you have low earth and you're working with that in your situation? Low earth needs regrounding, right? A reconnection in that. These people, when they have low earth, they tend to really ignore their bodies. And you find that they're not as intuitive. They're not as instinctive with what they need and how to move through the world, right? What they need are routines that stabilize them, reconnect them, give them a sense of security and sensual connection to something grounding again. They tend to also need, when they have low earth, more sleep, right? They've got to rest. They benefit, though, from a lot of physical contact in addition to more sleep and an adjustment to the diet. So for low earth adjustments, we want things like meat, we want potatoes, we want root crops, dairy, which I'm not a huge fan on that here, but it can be helpful. Vegetables that are steamed, cheeses, butters, salts, things like that are really good here. And of course, some grain. Things to avoid if you're dealing with a low earth constitution, whether it's in the chart or just in the person, are raw foods and fruits. Kind of keep that chill for a minute. Some of the roots that are really, really helpful here are ginseng. Arugula is very good to have right then. Seaweed, again, I'm not a fan. Other minerals, sometimes licorice and slippery elm. See, I can't even say slippery elm is really good here as well. So again, guys, this is a little bit about all of these different constitutions, my experience with them, some things I've used to walk with some other people, but I want to be clear. What I'm sharing with you today is, first of all, not your go-ahead to go take license for what I said and do what you need to, but it's meant to be a substitute, and it's meant to be additional information that you can present to a qualified physician. The information that I'm giving you is for education, is for conversation, is for exploration, right? We're all about finding our new tribes this year, and we have to welcome in more information. And that means for some of us too, we have to give out the information we already possess. So if you're thinking about using any of this stuff, make sure you are talking with your naturopath, your physician, or someone who is qualified to really help direct you in the best way to adjust what may be going on in your body. All right, guys, I love you so very much, and I hope this information is a little bit useful. Definitely leave questions, comments down below, and I'm happy to answer them. And if I don't know something, I will definitely find out the answer for you. Bye, guys.